Stocks pull back as tension in the West Asia escalates and crude prices surge. Healthcare stocks eke out some gains while oil marketeers and realty are the big drags. Days after MCX got a nod to kick off trading in electricity derivatives, the National Stock Exchange too has got the regulator's approval to enter the segment, upping the ante in the promising space. Tata Power MD and CEO Praveer Sinha says that the company is focusing on the hydro and pumped hydro projects, even as he sees more opportunities emerging in the power evacuation, distribution and nuclear energy. Raymond Group Chairman Gautam Singhania tells CNBC-TV18 he is spinning off businesses so they are professionally run, even as he remains tight-lipped on the succession, suggesting that the promoters may remain just owners. Hello, good afternoon. You're tuned into Business Lunch, coming live from the CNBC-TV18 Motilal Oswal studios. I'm Vinny Motiwala. Thank you so much for tuning in, as always. Today, we've seen a muted day coming in for the markets, right? You can see red across the screen, whether it's the benchmark indices or the mid-cap, small-cap and the Nifty Bank. Now, Nifty as of now is at around 25,000 levels is what we're watching out for, managing to hold on to that, but at the day's lowest point. Look at it. Last few minutes, we've seen that fall coming in for the Nifty. It was holding on to 25,050. Now it's gone below that level. So 25.30 around that mark, down 0.4% in today's trading session. Day's lowest point is what the Nifty is trading at. Sensex too is around the day's lowest point as well. So down almost both these benchmark indices, 0.5% is what we could say is the fall coming in for both of them. Mid and small cap. So before we look at that, let's actually turn to the Nifty Bank because that's also under pressure. So I'll say the Nifty Bank is also down 0.3% in today's trading session. Day's lowest point is what the markets are trading at. Advance decline ratio clearly in the favor of decline versus advances. That's how it shaped up through the day today. Today is the expiry, so keep an eye out on that. Advance decline ratio, like you can see, declines is 1,615 versus an advances of just 977. So yes, keeping an eye on that, and on the back of that, we're seeing that underperformance coming in from the broader end of the market. So key to watch out for in terms will be what is going to be happening for the broader end of the market and how are we settling by the end of the day in terms of expiry will be key to watch out for. But let's move on and talk about some important updates coming in from the auto sector. And starting with the auto space, we have Maruti Suzuki who's telling CNBC-TV18 that there is no disruption in production of e-Vitara due to the rare earth magnet crisis. The automaker adds that there is no change in the launch timings for the car as well. My colleague Parikshit actually caught up with the Senior Executive Officer Corporate Affairs of the company, Rahul Bharti. Listen in to what he had to say.
Regarding the situation on rare earth, as of now, there is no disruption in our operation due to this issue. There is, of course, a lot of uncertainty and the situation is evolving continuously. So we are monitoring the situation and we are pursuing multiple solutions to ensure continuity in our operations. The launch timings don't change. Mm-hmm. If and when there is any material impact to our business, we'll come back to and we'll inform all shareholders or all stakeholders in line with the regulatory requirements.
Right. But the production numbers have not been impacted. You're saying the launch timelines are not delayed, but are the production numbers not impacted at all?
There is no material impact. Small changes in production schedule keep happening all the time across several issues. If there is any material impact, we'll come and share.
Also, we spoke to Vinod Agarwal, Managing Director and CEO at VCV, on the rare earth magnet issue. Listen into what they had to say on this front.
No, that's a big challenge currently going on for the entire auto sector. It's not only for CVs, it's for the entire auto sector. So therefore, I think through SIAM and ECMA, a lot of discussions are happening through Government of India and also our embassy in China. And so a lot of applications have been made to get the permissions from China. There are always some stocks in the pipeline. So we will have stocks for around maybe 3 months, 2 months, our stock as well as supplier stock put together for magnets. Now, worst come to worst, if suppose these permissions don't come, then we will have to import the full component, because there is no restriction on import of full component. And if we import full component, then the cost will go up.
And keeping it with the auto packs, also say that Hyundai Motors India is likely to tap into the global supply network of its parent entity, Hyundai Motor Company, to source rare earth magnets. Sources also say that the company is closely monitoring the situation, but they do not expect any production cuts in the near term. Despite the restrictions on the rare earth exports, Hyundai India does not expect disruption in the EV manufacturing due to adequate inventory for this year. And moving on and saying with the topics of this actually rare earth crisis now, what we're seeing is that though China has agreed to grant export license to rare earths to the United States after 2 days of trade talks in London, a Wall Street Journal report says that China is putting a 6-month limit on the export license for the United States automakers and manufacturers. The measure is expected to provide Beijing with additional leverage in trade discussions while heightening uncertainty for United States manufacturers there. Now, shifting focus and what sources are saying that the government is likely to draw a proposal to acquire and collaborate on making a Striker land combat system, among others, from the United States. Parikshit is joining in with us to give us more details at this one. Afternoon, Parikshit.
Well, over the last few months, the US government has been urging India to procure more defense equipment from US manufacturers. There have been several plans that are under consideration. One which we are told where the government is now looking to draw up a proposal is with reference to Striker land combat systems from the United States. And here the proposal would be to acquire them, acquire some of them in ready condition, and also to manufacture them in collaboration with Indian counterparts, make them in India as well for the future. The other item which could be procured from the United States, and a proposal could be made on that front as well, are Javelin missiles. Now, this is something that India would need for its weapons arsenal, and Javelin missiles could be an item that we could look for from the US. In terms of the running contracts, the government is a bit concerned about the delays in certain contracts, and there is hope that these contracts will be honored in the next few months, and this includes the supply of Apache, Romeo helicopters, F-404 engines. These are running behind schedule right now, and the government hopes that all existing contracts will be honored very soon. When it comes to the GE 414 engine, that deal is yet to take off because the price negotiations are yet to be completed. So these are some of the issues in the defense relationship with the United States. Even though it is robust, it's growing, and India will procure more equipment from the United States. Definitely, there is hope that all the contracts which are delayed will be executed very soon. On the F-35s, there has been repeated messages from the United States for India to acquire F-35s, but we're told that no proposal is there on the table as yet.
Okay, Parikshit, thanks so much for that. But do wait by, because I think India is also collaborating with Russia as it is aiming to plug those gaps in its fighter jet fleet. What are you picking up from the sources? What is government looking at on this front, Parikshit?
There are 3 or 4 strategies that the government is executing in order to meet the near-term, mid-term and long-term needs of the Air Force. In the near term, it is considering an offer made by the Russian government recently for supplying and also making in India Su-57 stealth fighter jets. Now, while no formal proposal has been drawn up or the negotiations have not reached any advanced stage, this is only preliminary discussions and deliberations right now, the government also feels that this may be a good option considering there is a Su-30 line already existing in Nasik, which is by HAL, and HAL and Russian counterparts have been collaborating for years now. And India needs fighter jets in flyaway condition, and we also want to co-develop and manufacture in India. So somehow the Su-57 fits into that strategy, but the pros and cons of that are yet to be decided. The government is only weighing that proposal right now. A final decision is awaited. At the same time, there have been proposals which have come from Safran, the French manufacturer, and also from Rolls-Royce for making fighter jet engines for 5th generation fighters. That proposal is also under consideration because both Safran and Rolls-Royce are offering 100% technology transfer and IP transfer as well. Then you have the AMCA program, the Advanced Medium Combat Aircraft program, or our own indigenous fighter jet, 5th generation fighter jet program. But this has a long gestation period of 10 to 15 years. The government is trying to expedite it. And next week, the RFP, or the request for proposal for the AMCA program, is going to be issued. A pre-bid meeting is going to be held after that in 15 days. Applications may be invited in 45 days. So the government will want to move ahead as fast as possible on the indigenous AMCA program. But at the same time, collaborations with Russia, collaborations with Safran, Rolls-Royce, all of them are under consideration to meet the yearly needs of the Air Force.
Okay, Parikshit, thank you so much for the update coming in there. But on that note, we're going to actually step into a very short break. But before we step into the break, CNBC-TV18 Access is a premium membership-based service available on CNBC-TV18.com. It offers members exclusive content, market intelligence, and expert thought leadership. The membership includes access to CNBC-TV18's flagship events, interaction with our journalists, along with curated studio tours, e-learning sessions and masterclasses, and curated lifestyle benefits designed for our immersive and enriching experience. It empowers members with premium business intelligence and unique lifestyle benefits, the power of insight, the privilege of access, exclusivity experience, and influence. Yours to claim. Become a member. Log on to CNBC-TV18.com. Access plans. Thanks for staying tuned into Business Lunch on CNBC TV18. Now, latest on the India and EU free trade agreement front, Commerce Minister Piyush Goyal says that the agreement is on track to be achieved soon, and the only issue left are the non-tariff barriers. Listen in to what he had to say.
We are very much on track to achieve that. significant progress has been made. More than half the chapters are ready. In terms of content, I would say we are almost 90% ready for market access issues. On services and rules of origin, our negotiations start on Monday. Should not be difficult. There may be a few areas where we will need ministerial intervention.
And moving on, India's consumer inflation for the month of May will be announced today at 4 p.m. by the MOSPI. The CNBC-TV18 poll shows that the May CPI may fall to below 3%. Lata is here to give us more details on this one. Lata, over to you.
That's right. Our poll indicates that the reading could be as low as 2.95%, lower than the already low number which we got for April, which was 3.16%. And of course, it compares with 4.80, nearly 5% year ago. So it's not a very high base. In spite of it, you're getting a fairly benign number. In fact, if it is 2.95, it will be the lowest since March of 2019. So it's actually a 6-year low if it really comes in at 2.95. And the number is low primarily because it's driven by food inflation. Food inflation has fallen to a historic 1.8%. It's not a 6-year low because it was 1.8% last month also, that is in April. Usually in the month of May, prices tend to rise. But this time, a marginal rise in the price of vegetables has been countered by a fall in cereals and pulses where the harvest was very good. So we find it a really benign number. Also, a very high base of 8.7% year ago is also leading to food inflation looking very good. On core inflation, it's 4.2. It's above the RBI's mandate of 4%. But not to worry because this also is a base effect. Year ago, around the same time, the core inflation number was 3.1%, a historic low. So it's more a base effect. It's not as if commodity prices have shot up. But this 2.95, will it be a huge surprise? Will it lead to changes in the bond market or in RBI policy? No. This is exactly in line with what RBI forecast in the June 6th policy. They said that April, May, June, the average will work out to 2.9%. So, it's coming very much in line with the RBI forecast if it comes at 2.95%.
Okay, Lata, thank you so much for that. Important to watch out for this data today at 4 p.m. But on that note, we're going to step into a very short break. Don't go anywhere. We'll be back with more news and updates after the break, so stay tuned in. Welcome back to Business Lunch on CNBC-TV18. Now, getting you the latest on the Trump-related developments, we have Dia joining in with us in our special segment, Trump Watch. Dia, over to you.
President Donald Trump said a trade framework with China has been completed, with Beijing supplying rare earths and magnets upfront and the U.S. allowing Chinese students into its colleges and universities. The U.S. and China will maintain tariffs at their current lower levels following the two nations' agreement this week in London, Trump said Wednesday. He also said he intended to send letters to trading partners in the next 1 to 2 weeks, setting unilateral tariff rates ahead of a July 9 deadline to reimpose higher duties on dozens of economies.
We made a great deal with China. We're very happy with it. We have everything we need, and we're going to do very well with it, and hopefully they are too. But we're dealing with Japan, we're dealing with South Korea, we're dealing with a lot of them. We're dealing with about 15 countries, but as you know, we have about 150 plus, and you can't do that. So we're going to be sending letters out in about a week and a half, 2 weeks, to countries, telling them what the deal is, like I did with EU.
In response to the inflation report that came in for the month of May, Trump ramped up pressure on the Federal Reserve, demanding a full-point interest rate cut. Taking to Truth Social, Trump argued that the country would pay much less interest on debt coming due and overlooking that lower interest rates usually increase consumer prices. And as diplomatic and economic deals unfold, tensions remain high in the U.S. The White House responded firmly to intensifying protests over immigration policies, stating that President Trump will not allow mob rule in America. The statement follows a military-supported crackdown in Los Angeles. Shifting focus to foreign policy, Trump voiced diminished optimism regarding a nuclear agreement with Iran. In a podcast aired Wednesday, he admitted being less confident than he was months ago about reaching a deal. And moving on to the Trump-Musk feud, a call from two top White House officials may have prompted Elon Musk to soften his stance toward Donald Trump following months of public tension. Reports suggest Vice President J.D. Vance and Chief of Staff Susie Wild spoke with Elon Musk. The White House said on Wednesday that U.S. President Trump is appreciative of Elon Musk's expression of regret over some of his recent criticism in their blazing public falling out.
Thank you so much for that, Dia. But keeping it with the U.S. Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick told CNBC that U.S. tariff on Chinese imports will not change from the current levels that are there. Listen in.
These numbers, these tariff levels are not going to change from here. Can we say that?
You can definitely say that.
And some updates coming from the West Asia front. The U.S. is preparing a partial evacuation of personnel from the region due to security concerns. President Donald Trump says that the move coincides with the stalled U.S.-Iran nuclear talks. Here's the report.
The United States is pulling personnel out of the Middle East, according to President Donald Trump on Wednesday.
Well, they are being moved out because it could be a dangerous place, and we'll see what happens. But we've given notice to move out, and we'll see what happens.
Reuters reported earlier in the day that the U.S. is preparing a partial evacuation of its Iraqi embassy in Baghdad, according to U.S. and Iraqi sources, and that Washington will let military dependents leave locations around the Middle East over heightened security risks. It has bases in Iraq, Kuwait, Qatar, Bahrain, and the United Arab Emirates. What's less clear is why this is happening now. Iraq has been the site of heightened tension and violence since the start of the war in Gaza in 2023. Armed groups aligned with Iran repeatedly attacked U.S. troops, but that's subsided since last year. However, the news coincides with deadlocked U.S.-Iran nuclear talks. Trump nodded to that on Wednesday, too.
Is there anything that can be done to dial the temperature down in the region?
They can't have a nuclear weapon. Very simple.
In a podcast interview out earlier in the day, Trump said he was less confident now that Tehran would agree to stop its nuclear program. Meanwhile, CNN has reported that U.S. intelligence suggests Israel is preparing for a strike against Iran's nuclear facilities. Benchmark oil futures rose $3 on the news of the Baghdad pullout, with Brent crude going above $69 a barrel. The next round of nuclear talks between Iran and the United States is due in the coming days. Tehran is expected to hand over a counterproposal after rejecting an offer by Washington.
Okay, on that note, we are absolutely out of time on this edition of Business Lunch, leaving the Nifty at around 25,000 levels, just managing to hold on to that. So keep an eye out on the market. Up next, a Midcap Radar to take you through all the market action.